Hey there, Scorpio Ascendant. How are you doing? So this is the start of the 2-week forecast, taking you from the full moon in Aquarius on the 9th of August, right the way through to the new moon in Virgo on the 23rd of August. Now, if you're new to this channel, this is an ascendant forecast, and I do it from a whole sign Western tropical perspective. Now, if you're somebody who studies Placidus and prefers, your chart in a Placidus way, if you understand it that way, then I recommend that you listen to this forecast and then the forecast of Sagittarius, because in your Placidus, you'll have Sagittarius and Scorpio in your first house. I know this from my own ascendant. I'm a Scorpio ascendant using Placidus. So hopefully that's helpful to know. Now, if you're new to this channel, my name's Louisa Tanner-Munson. Welcome. And if you've come back, thanks for coming back. I appreciate that. So what I'm going to do today, I often look at the full scoop. I look at all the planetary movements, and I look at the phase of the moon and all that stuff. But I've actually put that into a separate video, and you can see the link to that below. Just help yourself on that one. But what I'm going to be doing is looking at the patterns from your perspective right the way through this, and in particular talk about the 3 distinct phases that I see. The phase of, in fact, I'm going to bring up my slide right now, the phase of the reveal around the time of the full moon, then the refining process that's going on, post full moon, and then the rebirth that's emerging like it's an emergence. This is a sort of uprush of energy around the time of the new moon in Virgo. I've got this statement that I'm using to keep on track, and it says, "Honor the mess whilst not giving up the sacred." I really think this is, this to me is what this whole period is about. So these are the 3 questions I'm asking as I'm doing this, and I will come back to these right at the end of the forecast. So where has my mask been for survival, and what would I prefer to express? So, the mask is dropping. Anywhere where we've had a false persona, it's kind of coming away around the time of the full moon. And if you're not aware of what's going on around the full moon, I have also done a full expose on the full moon, which I released I think about 5 or 6 days ago. There's also the previous forecasts leading up to the full moon, so there's a lot of intel there. What truth about myself or my life has become impossible to ignore, and what would shift it? So I'm also going to be looking from that perspective, where something gets so big that it's almost painful to carry on that pattern. That's really what I'm examining here. And then finally, what small sacred act of cleansing and reordering could help me restore faith in myself? To me, this is all about the nourishment and the purity represented by this new moon in Virgo potential. So I'm going to be doing this by looking at the 2 charts, the full moon and the new moon chart, from your perspective as a Scorpio, our perspective, given that I'm a Scorpio rising as well. But before I do that, I just want to bring up the names of all the people that support this channel, whether historically, regularly, or just right now within membership. Thank you so much. It's really, really is a comfort and a great support to me. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you. So these are the 2 charts. This is the full moon chart that you can see here, and you'll see that the full moon is coming up, and it's really impacting the 4th house. And also the 10th house is also highlighted. You'll see that the sun and moon opposition is also complemented or aggravated, you could say. I mean, there's a similar opposition in these signs and houses, and that's between Mercury retrograde and Pluto retrograde. Now, I'm not going to mention that too much, because at the end of this video, I'm giving you a preview for the Mercury going direct video. It's just a 4-minute video. It's a quick forecast to give you a blast of confidence, to give you a shot of courage, and whatever you need as Mercury goes direct on the 11th. So you don't have to wait to the 11th to see this. If you carry on watching to the end, you'll get that right at the end. So so we've got these 2 oppositions out of the 4th and the 10th houses. So this is big. The 1st, the 7th, the 4th and the 10th. These are our really core houses. I think of them like the north, south, east and west. And so we've got this full moon really stirring things up at home. You know, the home, the family. Is everything okay at home? Is everything okay, you know, within your family? What stresses are coming in? What's going to stress you out? So there's a lot going on. And, you know, at the top, there is this desire to kind of just be in your career and be in this outward version. It's almost like I don't want to attend to all that nitty gritty. It's too much. I want to be out here where it's a bit glamorous, a bit fun. And so there's a real tension there. But that's not all, because, you know, one of your ruling planets, it's not just Pluto, but you've also got Mars, and Mars is in 2 exact oppositions on the same day, on the day of the full moon. So he is exactly in opposition to Saturn and exactly in opposition to Neptune. And so Mars in your 12th house is, I think, bringing up all the self-sabotages that you've ever done. He's giving you access to anywhere where you felt like you've had to fight, where you've been in something that you maybe didn't ask for, and it's a struggle. All of these thoughts about struggling, things being not fair, not right, where you felt unboundaried, where you felt unprotected. Mars is coming into this memory bank of information, and he's bringing it to life. He's really showing you all of the old patterns of not feeling safe and secure. And they're coming up, you know, they're coming up to be looked at. And then it's in stark contrast to Saturn and Neptune in your 6th. You know, Saturn here is saying, but this is actually the life, and maybe that's a bit in your imagination. And Neptune is really saying, well, what can you trust? You know, Neptune and Mars in opposition is really creating this sense of something's up, but I can't quite put my finger on it. And so it's almost like your spidey senses, you know, from Spider-Man, your spidey senses are tingling. It feels like there's something going on. You can't quite put your finger on it. So to me, this full moon is rife with mystery, and is a little bit unsettling. It's almost like there's something unknown coming up and you can't quite put your finger on it. But one of the things I like about this particular period in time is that Mars and Pluto, your 2 ruling planets, they are working beautifully together throughout this whole period. So it's not all lost. Whatever is going on is there to strengthen you, and it's strengthening you in all of your sort of psychic energy, you know, the energy of what's hidden and what is deeply, deeply unconscious. You know, you're able to access much stronger levels and deeper levels than you've ever accessed before. And then Pluto down here is really showing that it's time to restructure how you live at home, and who your family are, and what relationships you've got. Now, I love this. So this is the new moon chart. It's, you know, the new moon is in Virgo. It's at 0 degrees Virgo. And there's going to be a second one at 29 degrees Virgo on the 23rd of September. So this is just the start of a 1-month story arc. You know, this is creating a whole new emphasis for you, which I think is going to be exciting to explore. But it's not necessarily comfortable, but it's definitely bringing about some cleansing, rebirth energy. So you've got this yod, which I was trying to do with my hands, and it's known as a finger of fate or a finger of God. And where it points to is showing where your energy almost resolves the chart. And so this is pointing to your 11th house. Now, I always think of the 11th house as a place of collaboration, co-creation. It's a place where the law of attraction, I think, really comes to life, because co-creation, or, you know, working with the universe and the law of attraction, it's working in tandem with the quantum rules. So it's not just you on your own, it's you and the quantum rules, or it's you and a friend, you and God, you and your higher self. To me, this is a place of friends, support. It's also a place of dreams and new visions. It's also quite a philanthropic place. It's definitely a place where a movement can suddenly arise. And maybe there's something about you and movements right now. Maybe you're about to, start something really quite big that feels really empowered. And you're using the law of attraction and putting your deep focus and collaborating, following the clues in a law of attraction style. To me, this is a hugely influential time. You could really grow in influence very, very quickly. So this is exciting. Now, I really recommend that all of what you need to be able to come into this phase, that you pay it some attention in time for the new moon in Virgo, because this new moon in Virgo is a bit easier to manage than the following one, because the following one is going to be in opposition, almost exact opposition to Saturn and Neptune. And they'll both be retrograde. In fact, Saturn will be back in Pisces at that point. So this new moon is going to stir up a lot. To me, what I see happening is you're really going at it. You're like, there's a lot of friendships, there's a lot of networks and friends of friends and networks that spread into even bigger networks. There's this idea of spreading and broadening that is really quite phenomenal. And it's important that you are able to snag it and see what's working, see what's not, and to be able to work with it, because the second one is an eclipse. So it's really strong, and eclipses can really move you in your life. They can really move you forwards. But of course, if you're stuck in some pattern of resistance, that move could be very shocking, and it could really stir something up that you're not quite ready for. So I think practice into it, lean into it, start working with this new moon influence as soon as you can. This new influence is broadening your scope, because there's a much bigger part of you out there that is needing to come out right now. And it's exciting, you know, and it's based on the prodding of this sense that you have to change how you are at home. There's this sense that there's this emergence of a new you, possibly more boundaried, possibly a lot more soulful. But there is this, you know, the changes that are going on for you are part and parcel of this upward movement. And then you've got Saturn and Neptune in your 6th house. Saturn means hard work. He really likes the 6th house because he gets down to action, and he's probably got a list of things that he's going to do. He's got a Gantt chart sorting everything out so it all fits in. There's this real sort of impulse to get moving. And as you're getting moving, it's pushing you in the direction of networks and out further than you've ever reached before. So it's quite a dreamer's moon. And it's also exactly in a square to Uranus as well in the 8th. And so to me, the 8th house, one of the characteristics of the 8th house is that it takes us beyond what we're comfortable with. It really tests us. You know, it's like a rite of passage. And so to me, if you've been messing around this area, you've been thinking, I am ready for this next step, but I'm not quite. Almost like, you know, when I go to the Atlantic Ocean, we live by the beach, and I dip my toe in and it's so cold, I run back out. You know, I get really close. Eventually I do get in, but it's like a bit of a dance. You dip your toe in, but you're not quite ready. Well, Uranus is here to move you forwards. So whatever you've felt building up, now is the time that it's going to erupt. But to me, what's going on at the full moon is it's bringing up all the different archetypes. It's bringing up the stresses. It's bringing up all the evidence that you've ever needed to be able to piece this together and to sense where your new direction is. And it's like up here. So I'm just going to point out a few things that I think will help you between these two events, these two moons. And then I'm going to go back to those questions and answer them. So I think the thing that I find most helpful is here. So like I said, Mercury is going to go direct on the 11th, and there's a video coming that you can watch, and there'll be a forecast there about that, very short one. But we've got this Mars trine Pluto. I don't think we can underestimate the impact of this Mars trine Pluto. I mean, these are the two sides of you coming together and working really well. If we take a step back to last year, from October 2024 right the way through to the end of April 2025, you know, Mars and Pluto were coming into an opposition with each other, and then they did that opposition 3 times. They kind of went in, retrograded out, went in, and they did it 3 times, and then they started to separate from this opposition. And that's the last time they really came into any connection with each other. Now, these are 2 parts. These are the 2 rulers, according to whether you're a traditional astrologer or a modern day astrologer. But I still think I use both always. I think the 2 of them working together is significant for Scorpio. So to me, it feels like the doubt, the questioning, the lack of energy, the feeling of illness, all of that. You're moving beyond it. You're moving completely beyond it. It's like you found the cure, you found the resolution, and it feels like now everything's coming into sync. You're able to move forwards. So I just see this as getting the green light in a huge, huge way. And it just so happens around that time, Saturn and Uranus are exactly in their sextile. I mean, this doesn't happen very often, but they are going to be in a sextile. So it's a very, very specific energy between them. You know, Saturn is about your goals and your discipline, and Uranus is about the inspiration. And so I do think you're cooking on gas, as we say in England, and you're also inspired with your goals. I mean, this is, I think, an unbeatable situation, but that's not all, because we've also got Venus conjunct Jupiter on the 12th, and that's taking place here. If I just go back, you'll see them in a conjunction. So in this 2-week period, Venus moves close to Jupiter and then moves away. And during that time, they're both in this lovely trine to the North Node. So to me, this is also showing the energy of peace and serenity and good fortune when you're exploring your life through the ninth house. The ninth house is all about what you know, how you're growing your knowledge, where you go to that's different from where you're from. So it's about the journey, you know. So Jupiter and Venus in this part of your chart about the journey is significant. To me, this is peaceful. It feels like you're on your journey. You're in this space of creation. You're in this space of discipline and inspiration, and it fits together. Finally, it fits together. There's also another thing that I really want to point out, and that's on the 19th. The sun will be about here and is exactly in a trine with Chiron. We get 2 trines with Chiron every year from the sun. And whatever you've been struggling with as well, you know, as if all of those pieces coming together wasn't enough. The sense of old triggerings from the past, in particular about how you do everyday life when it doesn't seem to fit your pattern of experience. You know, maybe it's about how odd you might feel in relation to the rest of the world. Maybe you go to the beat of your own drum a little bit. Chiron in the 6th can really show us where we're out of step with everyone else and how everyone else is building their lives, the pain of it. The pain of being different in many respects. And here on the 19th, we're really making sense of it. And I think you get the sense that actually, you know, my career, my outward expression is all based on who I am as a person. And finally, I feel really free to be myself. So I think this is a really, really lovely energy. So all in all, I just think as you're coming up to this new moon in Virgo time, this is a fantastic time. You know, the sun has been in the 10th house, really amplifying your range, how many people see you and feel you and are grateful to you. And you're also coming into this time when there's a lot of collaboration coming up. So this to me feels great. But what I want to do is just go to these 3 questions, which I promised I would. So the first one, where has my mask been for survival? And what would I prefer to express? Well, it's interesting because Scorpio ascendants are really known for having quite a strong mask, quite a strong ability to withstand things and keep it all locked inside, you know, so they look really quite resilient. But, you know, what mask? Let me just go to that question again. What mask? Where has my mask been for survival? I think, actually, this is significant down here, this position of Pluto right at the start of, you know, like right at the bottom of the chart in the 4th house. To me, Pluto in the 4th house is speaking of a deep cleansing and purification of everything to do with home, everything to do with family, everything to do with the idea of a house with a picket fence and a garden and a pond or whatever it is. I think this is coming to the truth of how you really want to live and whether the dream that you've been sold is really the dream that's for you. I think the mask of this is how I'm going about my life. I think that mask is changing. It's not that it was ever a lie, But to me, it feels like it's not relevant. It's just not relevant anymore, if it ever was. But to me now, I see that you've got the courage to do something about it. And you might find that your dream of where you want to live is completely different to what you ever thought you would ever do. But to me, it's a really strong impulse that there's a whole new way of living. And so what would I prefer to express? So if my home, my idea of how I'm going to be has been there for survival, what would I prefer to express? Well, I think in terms of what you're expressing is a breaking down of the old rules. You know, the 8th house where Uranus is a place of expectation. It's a place of ancestry and, you know, all the pressures that we've been put under to perform in a different way. And Uranus coming in here is really breaking that down and saying, you know, the time to follow those patterns, to follow those edicts from everyone else, it's gone. You know, it's no longer something that you need to deal with. And maybe this is one of the reasons why the new moon is really taking you off and out into different networks, out of maybe a familiar stability and safety. It's taking you in a whole new direction. So I think you're breaking the patterns, and I think that's what you prefer to express. Maybe step into it and say, yeah, okay, I own it. I am breaking down the patterns of the family, and it's okay. It's completely okay. It's totally okay. I love myself the way I am. So I think that's possibly what's going on. What truth about myself or my life has become impossible to ignore? Okay. I may have already touched on that. Okay, here's one. That you can bring heaven to earth. You know, Chiron has been going through this part of your chart for such a long time, and Chiron has brought with it the the realization that maybe you're not good enough for the work, you're not good enough for life, you're not good enough to make it work, to be able to earn enough, you know, and to also follow what you love. So to me, it's this whole pattern of authenticity, and you know, maybe you've died a few times in your self-confidence in thinking, this is where I see myself and this is where I am. And I try so hard. And so to me, I think you're about to write a new story. And of course, we're all writing new stories in the 6th house. To me, it's allowing yourself to know that you can do it. You've got it. And you probably don't admit that because Scorpio ascendants tend to be quite composed. They tend to be quite secretive about things. But Saturn coming through the 6th is absolutely giving you some welly. It's giving you some power to be able to redesign your life and to take it seriously, to action all the things that you want to. And I actually think you can create what it is that you're looking for. But it's going to look very different to the idea you were sold. And it's going to break down some patterns. And, you know, my question to you is, are you ready to do that? Are you ready to be the pattern breaker of the generations and to live completely freely in your authenticity? What small and sacred act of cleansing and reordering could help me restore faith in myself? Well, I really like this. And I haven't mentioned it enough, but Venus and Jupiter together in the 9th house. To me, this is a commitment to learning and a commitment to the grace and the adventure and the expansion. So you might choose to use this to share your truth. You might learn from, you know, one of your favorite platform speakers or coaches, or I think we've all got a little place where we get some wisdom. We get a little nod to something, and so one way might be to retreat, to participate in some kind of course that's going to open you up in quite a structured way to ensure that you go deep inside. That might be something that can nourish and be an act of, what's the words? I've forgotten. An act of cleansing and reordering. But you might actually find something just more spiritual and symbolic, a lot more cleansing and a lot more clean. To me, this is about bringing the warmth of grace and faith back into your life. I say faith because the 9th house is absolutely about faith as well. And so Jupiter coming in here, to me, I think right now faith is being restored for you. So maybe your act of small faith and grace is in cleansing the environment you're in. So for instance, and it's funny, but I've just started lighting, like sage sticks or incense and whatnot in between all my forecasts, just so that I can like cleanse myself from the psychic debris of the previous one and the previous one. It's a moment to pause and separate each moment and to notice that there is something magical that's going on. And so I think this, like the ninth house does have a certain amount of separation because it is separating us from everything that's normal, from everything that's in the third house, everything that's already known. And so to me, I think a sacred act or a religious act, some form of offering, some form of blessing, whilst also noticing that is separating you from the old moment, the old patterns of being. To me, something like that feels good. The other way of doing it, of course, is to have a lovely trip away, to go out, to go somewhere that feels adventurous, that feels nourishing. The sign of Cancer, to me, represents a lake, like going to a lake, going to a river beach, going to a beach, going somewhere near the water, maybe somewhere where there's nourishing food, grandma food, the kind of food that you might have grown up with. Go somewhere that might remind you of old holidays or old trips and old memories. That also would soothe the soul. So I'm going to leave that there, Scorpio. I hope that was really helpful for you. I mean, if this spoke to you at a deep level, come join my membership. You'll find Monday to Friday forecasts. I do these fortnightly forecasts speaking to the matters of the heart and also money. Or if you're wanting to explore something much deeper in your actual own chart, then just head down to the link below and book a private session with me. Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you again real soon. Lots and lots of love to you. Bye for now.